Yo, hey everybody. So in this video, I'm going to be working on this bike here, and so the goal on this, what we're trying to achieve here is, I want to put a slightly shorter stem on here, and maybe a handlebar that's a little more modern, that doesn't have quite as deep of a drop. So basically our issue is that this stem uses the older handlebar dimensions. That's a 26 millimeter. So this is the stem that I want to put on there, and it's shorter by probably 20 millimeters, but it's got the more current 31.8 diameter. So I'm just going to do a quick little video on this swap, which is going to be pretty simple, but I'm also going to do a quick little run through on just a bit of history on updating an older bike to a more modern cockpit or stem and handlebar. So let's just jump right into kind of this particular style. So there's, as far as the handlebar stems, there's basically two styles. There's a threadless, which is like this, or there is the quill stem that's like a threaded fork with the stem actually stabs down into the fork. Whereas this one, the fork steer tube comes straight up, and then the stem just clamps on the top of it. As far as quill stems, the common sizes are 1 inch, inch and an eighth was a little bit later, and then eventually everything went to the threadless systems. Kind of started off in the mountain bikes, but anyway, this particular one is an inch and an eighth steer tube. The common size on a lot of the older road bikes is 1 inch. So, if you have an old 1 inch steer tube and you want to put a modern cockpit on it, probably the easiest way is going to be what they call a quill stem adapter. So basically you remove the old stem, the adapter goes in place and then cinches itself down with a little wedge that goes inside of the stem. And then from there you can just clamp a modern inch and an eighth stem on top of that. And I'll put a few links in the description of some of these adapters and things. So then the modern bikes that have a threadless, there are some that have a 1 inch steer tube with no threads. If that's the case, you can easily put a shim on the top of the steer tube and run any of the inch and an eighth modern, much more common stems. And then there's, folks like, they'll come to me with a bike similar to this and say, well, how, I need to raise this stem higher. And so if you just want to go a little bit higher, there's definitely stems that have more of an upward angle, that can get the bars maybe ½ inch to 1 inch higher. If you want more than that, there's it's either this, like what they call a stem riser or steer tube extender, which the way those guys work is you basically remove the stem, you got a piece that clamps down in place of the stem, and then you cinch that all together like you would normally adjust your headset and get the stem on there, and then the stem actually clamps on top of that. So those can raise it up 3 or 4 inches or so. But anyway, let's just jump right into what we're going to do to swap this guy out. So what I'm going to do first, just unwrap the bars, and then I'll just go through the whole process, because somebody may want to do this and they want to see point A to point B how it's done. So the first thing we're going to do, I've got this reflector that's for this size bar. I'm going to remove that, and then I'm just going to undo the handlebar tape, and we'll kind of just go from there. All right, so we're going to do first, I'm going to just get rid of this reflector here. And if you have any computers or whatever, any accessories on the handlebars, go ahead and get all that stuff off. So your Shimano hoods, this could be Shimano, SRAM, Campy, whatever. If you just take and you roll back the hood portion there, that's going to expose a couple things. One, the bolt that secures these to the handlebars on some bikes, but namely we're just going to go ahead and unwrap these handlebars first. So just get the tape undone here, the finishing tape. And this, I wrapped these bars not too long ago, so I'm just going to reuse this existing tape here because it's still in really good condition. So you're just careful with it, and the adhesive's not too sticky on the tape there. It's pretty easy to undo it. Go ahead and got our end cap there. Some of them are really tight, and some you can just kind of pop off with your thumb there, but maybe a flathead screwdriver, but that guy just comes out like so. And we can undo the bars. This is just kind of what they call the figure 8 method. So yeah, the bars that I'm putting on here, just kind of a couple things in addition to being larger diameter. They're slightly, maybe a centimeter narrower than these bars, but then also just these Ritchie bars were nice. I really liked all the Ritchie stuff, but they're a little older. The drop's a little deeper, so it's kind of, as times have gone on, the drops have gotten a little deeper. Some of them, the length here to here has gotten maybe slightly shorter, and I don't know, just honestly they're just more, the newer bars are generally more comfortable overall, so that's kind of just the biggest difference. I just got the one side done. I'm just going to shortcut and we'll do this. We don't have to, but if you look, there's a little slot right here, and I'm taking just, if you have a P handle or T handle wrench or the 3-way 4, 5, 6 millimeter, those work really well. But this I'm just using one of these AWS 10 Park tools, and we're going to just flip that up where that little nook is, and if you just take your wrench and stick it in there, you'll find right there I've got it engaged, and it just goes. See if we can pull this back just a little further, and you can see there's a little bolt inside of there. So if we turn this guy, there we go. So basically this 4 and a 5 millimeter wrench is all we really need for this. But I'll go ahead and stick this in. This one will just along. This will allow us to. We don't have to take it all the way off, but it's loose now, and you're like, oh, I can get it off here. But you have to, once you get to this bend and kind of the flat parts, you have to take it just a little bit more. Whoop, that one came all the way off, which we didn't necessarily want to do. But if that comes all the way off, you can just, you can see it's kind of a female, the nut portion in there, and then our bolt. Just thread that guy back in, give it a couple turns. There we go. So it's loose, but it's back on there. So we'll just slip that right over the other bar there. So I'm going to do this other side off camera, and then we'll get to the rest here. Got the other side off, and so now we're ready to take the bars and everything off. So if you want to take this into separate pieces, you can just basically loosen the 4 bolts on the faceplate here, and the bars will come off, and then whichever. Since we're replacing the whole thing, I'm just going to take the stem off and the bars as one unit. So what you want to do first is you got 2. This one goes through this side and slips through that way, and the bottom one goes through this side and slips through that way. So you always want to back these off, and same thing as tightening them, maybe give each one a 1/4 turn at a time. That just keeps too much stress from becoming on the stem, and if you loosen one all the way, it puts a lot of stress on the other one, and you may find that it's hard to loosen up if you get one all the way. Take all the tension off one and loosen it all the way up. The other may be too tight. So got those loose. At this point, the stem just rotates on the top of that steer tube. So we're going to, you want to be careful here. If this fork's been on here a while, so it probably won't fall out. But some bikes are suspension forks, it's heavier, that kind of thing. So we got our top cap, and then our bolt, preload bolt, that's just going to sit there just like so. Set that aside, and so from here, always, I'm grabbing the wheel, because otherwise this fork can just fall straight out through the bottom, but you know, we got our stem off there, so you know, that's our 1/8 inch and 1/8 diameter. And you know, another thing, if you look at the way stems are, it's not just a straight 90-degree angle. This one, it's got I think it's probably a 6 or 7 degrees rise, so you can run this either which way. You can run it like that, and it's gonna angle the stem downwards, lower the bars a little, and this direction is gonna have them a little higher. So it's kind of the same thing with our stem that we're putting on there. You know, you can see that way is like the downward 6 degrees down. That way is 6 degrees, or yeah, 6 degrees up, which actually this one is, if you look on the side there, it's got the dimensions of 7 degrees, and let's see if we can get that in focus. And it's a 70 millimeter stem. So that's basically what the measurement there is, center of where this tube runs through. So center to center is 70 millimeters. The Ritchie one, I think that one's probably 90, it looks like. So anyway, we're going to mount this in the upward position. But before I get into this, let's, you know, you got these series of spacers here. You know, a lot of people think, well, if you just had spacers, then you can raise this up. But the stem has to be able to have enough purchase over on top of the steer tube, which is, you know, this is your steer tube here. It has to have enough purchase on there that the top of the stem, you know, if I just mock this up and set it down, you can see the top of this go, either want it to pass right within these, you know, you want it to pass, you don't want it too high. If it's flush with the top or sticks up, you can't adjust your headset properly. But if you want it, you don't want it below this bolt, or you're risking life and limb of this breaking the top of the steer tube off. So go ahead and put this guy on, and then we are just at a perfect, you know, there's about a 3/16 drop in there, and it's passes through the top of this upper bolt, so we're good there. Go ahead and put our top cap and preload on here. And this, you know, it's not like a quill stem where you have to, you know, really cinch down on it to get it to stay in place. You just want it to get it tight enough to where you can't, these spacers here, you can't turn them with your hand. Once you get it that tight, that's all you need. And then you're gonna, once you get the bars and everything lined up, you'll line your, you know, your stem in line with your tire, or the bars are going straight ahead, and then you'll cinch your 2 bolts down. But so we've got our new handlebars here that are, you know, 31/8, but a little bit narrower. They have a nice flatter top here, just a little more comfort. So, you know, another benefit on these 31/8 stems is that we can usually just hook our handlebars in without taking everything apart. It just slides right in like so, and most handlebars will give you will have some instructions maybe, or, you know, these ones anyway, they've got a nice little, you can see the little markings on either side, so it's easy to get them centered. Alright, so we got them centered. So that looks like a pretty decent angle to start with there. As you're bringing these up to torque, you want to, you know, evenly work through it, kind of like a N pattern or like a Z pattern, where you up, you know, you go up, down, you know, or whatever. Just, you know, you don't want to keep the load even, try to keep the spacing even, unless, the particular stem you're using. Some of them want you to bottom it out on one side, and then a little torque wrench here. So now, so in this case, we got all the cables and everything still connected. We didn't make a huge change, but if you were to put, say, a stem that's longer or a stem that's higher, keep in mind you may have to add longer shift and or brake cables. So yeah, that's just something to keep in mind. I'm going to make another video on a similar situation where we will be replacing all that. So this one, not necessary, so a little simpler. And then once you get it kind of roughly into position, what I like to do is just take some kind of a straight edge, and then we'll put it on the flat section of the drop here, and then we're going to raise this just to the point. This is good to keep them even, but also get it in an appropriate position. So usually here it's either touching or maybe about a finger's width. So right about there. Say probably somewhere in the neighborhood of, if you want to use a torque wrench, probably 5 or 6 Newton meters on that. And we'll repeat the same process with this one. So this is somewhat of a hot topic these days. I usually like to just line these up straight, a straight line with the drops, but nowadays a lot of the cool kids are running them in like this. So it's up to you. I live in Denver, Colorado, and which is in the United States, free country, and America, you can do whatever you want. So yeah, it's up to you however you want to set that. I like to just run a nice straight line, but you do it how you want to do it. So now we're preparing to wrap the bars, but so these original bars came with some this stuff called the bar fat, or like an extra padding to that goes underneath the tape. And so we want to tape down, we want to put that on and then tape down our cables. So I'm going to kind of just position this into place where we would want it, and get the bars right, put a little electrical tape to kind of hold the bar fat and the cables into place, or in this case the brake cable. Some are going to have the brake and the shift cable, newer models. So anyway, I did a video on, and I'll add a link in the description section of this video, of a video I did on how to wrap handlebars. So one thing I like to use is good electrical tape. This is some 3M, the Scotch Super 33 Plus. This is really great. If you're just using it for wrapping bars, it's the best, best stuff there is. So fold back our hood there and put our bar plug in, and pretty much good to go at that point. Didn't cinch down the stem, so let's go ahead and cinch down. My torque wrench here is set to 5 Newton meters, so we did that on the steer tube, or where the stem clamps down there, and then also on the face plate where it clamps to the bar. So anyway, hopefully you enjoyed the video. Thanks for watching. See you guys next time.